In a victory for the Trump administration, an immigration judge in Louisiana on Friday ruled that Columbia University graduate student Mahmoud Khalil can be deported from the country as a national security risk, ruling that the 30-year-old Palestinian activist's presence here posed potentially serious foreign policy consequences. Khalil is a legal permanent U.S. resident and was the first international student arrested in recent weeks amid a broad crackdown on pro-Palestinian demonstrations on U.S. college campuses. But the judge's decision doesn't mean this legal battle is over. Khalil's attorneys have until April 23rd to file for relief, and he can remain in the U.S. until then. Meanwhile, a separate federal judge in New Jersey has temporarily barred Khalil's deportation while he fights another legal challenge here on the grounds that he's being targeted for constitutionally protected free speech. For more on that, I'm joined by ACLU New Jersey Executive Director Amal Sinha. Thanks so much for coming on the show. Can you just update us broadly on where things stand and also what you anticipate to differ with the hearing that Khalil will have here in federal court in Newark?
Thanks for having me. So on Friday, an immigration judge in Louisiana held that Mr. Khalil is deportable. Now, that doesn't mean that he will be deported. It just means that he is deportable under the immigration law. And we think that ruling was baseless. Now, what's different about the New Jersey case in federal court in New Jersey is that we're actually going to try to get to the merits there about whether or not Mr. Khalil's First Amendment rights were violated. And if so, then that's a constitutional violation, and he should be immediately released, and any threat of deportation should be removed.
I mean, Khalil is a green card holder. He's here as a permanent legal resident of the U.S., but are there interpretations of the Constitution that could say he's not a U.S. citizen, and so the same rights are not afforded to him when it comes to free speech?
No, look, the First Amendment applies to everybody in the United States, regardless of their immigration status. So if he's a citizen or a permanent resident or a visa holder, First Amendment still applies. And for undocumented people, too. We all have free speech rights. And so if the court says that in this instance, free speech rights don't apply, then we have a much bigger problem. And so what we need to do is make sure that the Constitution is protected and that this constitutionally protected speech is not used as a reason to deport somebody.
We've seen, obviously, since this has happened with Khalil, other international students who have been detained, international students whose visas have been revoked. From where you sit, what is this tactic? Do you see it as a targeting of the government, or is it within their jurisdiction to make the decision of when someone's visa should and should not be in good standing?
I think this is a blatant attempt to target people for their views and to rid the country of immigrants. It's two things happening at the same time. We're seeing proactive silencing of people who dissent from U.S. foreign policy in particular. And we're also seeing an attempt to do whatever the government can to deport as many people as possible. This is all a part of Trump's mass deportation scheme. And they're using the tactic of protest and the weaponization of protests on campus to get people out as much as possible.
Are you confident about how the case will play out in New Jersey?
Look, there are many more steps before we reach a final conclusion, but I am confident that the federal court in New Jersey will see what this is, which is a violation of somebody's First Amendment rights, and that we will win the day in Mr. Khalil's case. You know, he was arrested brutally, detained, threatened with deportation, and threatened to have his green card revoked, all for constitutionally protected speech. And that's a big red flag. Regardless of where you fall on the ideological spectrum on any issue, if you care about free speech, if you care about democracy, you should be outraged by what's happening to Mr. Khalil and his family.
Very quickly, how are he and his family? What does this mean for where he's located? And we know his wife is expecting a baby. So is he still in Louisiana? And should we expect that he'll be there as this plays out?
He's still in Louisiana, and the government is fighting to hold the case in Louisiana. But what we're saying is that no, this belongs in New Jersey, where he was first detained and where he filed his first papers, and that's what Judge Farbiar's in the District of New Jersey held. And so we're hopeful that he will be, first of all, released while the pendency of this trial goes on, and ultimately he will prevail and be there for the birth of his child. I can't imagine what his family is going through right now. He is in good spirits and powering through, but it is a very hard time for that family, and they are dealing with a hostile federal government that is attacking its own people for exercising their constitutional rights.
Amal Sinha is the executive director for New Jersey's ACLU chapter. Thanks so much for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me.